Hi, my name is Steve Klein, and we're going to walk through setting up a HTTP target in Promptfoo. So what I mean by HTTP target is we're looking at testing an application that we talk to through HTTP requests. So a little bit about what we're going to do. So here I have an example Postman request set up for the application that we're testing. So we've got our message. This is where the user's input goes. We have a conversation ID. This is something we'll talk about. So this is how our application manages conversations or sessions. And then this is what our responses look like. So what our goal here is today is within Promptfoo, we need to figure out how we're going to inject the prompts that Promptfoo generates into our request, and then how we want to parse the response. In Promptfoo, what we're looking for is we just want the text of the response. So we don't want Promptfoo to handle the entire object. We just need to get the text out of it. So we'll walk through how to do all of these in this example. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into Red Team Targets. We're going to select New Target. We're going to give it a name here. So this is just our training example. We're going to select HTTP, and then we're going to hit Next. So here we're going to copy some of the information over. So we have our URL. We have a post request, and then we don't have any headers, additional headers, but this is where you could add additional headers. And then we have our request body. So we're going to take our request body here. And now you see request body must contain prompt. So this is, Promptfoo uses Nunjucks, which is a templating library. And so the double brackets indicate a variable that's going to be replaced. And so the prompt variable is what we need in every request. And this is where Promptfoo is going to inject the attack. We're going to leave the conversation ID for now. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to go down and we're going to test our target to see, make sure we have connectivity and that we can send it a message. So first, let's look at what we got. So the raw result that we got back was perfect. We have connectivity. We're able to get a response back. But as you can see here, the parsed result still shows that we're getting the full object when really what we want is just the text inside the response. And the suggestions here actually tells us exactly that. So the parse response wraps the actual chat output in the response field, but it's retiring the entire JSON. So we want to add a response transform with JSON.response. So we're going to go up here to our response transform, and we're going to put in JSON.response. Now the response transform is something you'll probably need to use on every HTTP provider. It's very powerful, but for most request endpoints, we're just going to use JSON dot. And what this is this is a variable that we make available that is the JSON object response. And this is all covered in our documentation here. So for example, if we had an array, we could even do JSON dot options, pick the first one dot message, dot split. You can do full JavaScript here, but for us it's very easy. We're just doing JSON.response, and so let's go ahead and we're gonna test that again. Perfect. So provider configuration is valid. Our parse response, hello again. If there's anything you need help with regarding your orders, just let me know. This is great. Okay, so now the next thing we want to do is we want to handle our conversations. So we're going to open the sessions here, and we have two options. We have a server-generated session ID or a client-generated. In our example here, the client generates a new conversation or session ID. So I'm going to select that. What we do here is, as you can read here, a UUID will be created for each conversation and stored in the session ID variable. Add session ID in the header or body of the request above. So that's perfect. All we need to do here is we're going to come in and we're going to replace this with session ID. And now for each request or conversation that Promptfoo starts, it'll generate a unique session ID. And again, we're just going to run test target again, just to make sure everything works properly. Excellent. Perfect. We're good to go on to our next step. So the next step is the application details. So application details this is what's really important. This is the information that's given to Promptfoo to generate our attacks and grade the responses. So this is how Promptfoo 1 knows specific things about your application, like is it connected to a RAG that has information that we should try to pull? Is it connected to other systems, like maybe a ticketing system or order system where there's data that's segregated by user that we want to make sure that only specific users have access to? So one of the things we can start by doing is just hitting discover. And what this is going to do is this is running through a conversation with your target to try and pull some information out. But some of the things is like, what is the main purpose of your application? So, this is a customer service application. Actually, this is great. The auto discovery results. The primary purpose of the application is to assist customers in an electronics company with account related tasks. These tasks include checking order history, viewing support tickets. Awesome. So we'll just hit apply and we'll get that in there. So this is great. So this is how our system knows that, how to frame the questions and how to know what's on topic or off topic for your application. Now there's a lot more sections here, and the more detail that you provide, the better our test generation and grading will be. So here's a very important one that we were able to pull out through auto discovery is what systems, data, or resources does your application have access to? And our discovery mechanism was able to find a couple of tools that this application has access to. Get order history, get support tickets, open support tickets. And this is great. So now Promptfoo knows exactly what sort of things we should try to attack. And what type of users interact with your application. This is also very important. This is how our application knows, like, is this a customer? Is this an internal employee, etc. So there's a lot of information here. As we say, the more information you give, the better the attacks are going to be. And now we're going to go over to application context. So conversation history is important. The system maintains conversation history. This is correct. Our system maintains the conversation history on the back end. You don't need to, like with ChatGPT, you send it the entire conversation every time. That's not how our system works, right? You just send the user information and our back end is tracking the conversation. Who is the red team user? So this is important. The user is John Doe. He is a customer of the electronics company. Now this last field, test generation instructions, this is very important if there's very specific instructions that you need Promptfoo to follow when generating tests. So for example, if you know that your system will always refuse any question unless it's specifically about, troubleshooting televisions. Like this is a troubleshooting televisions bot. So you can say every test must be framed, must ask a question about troubleshooting televisions. Right? So this way, we'll take this into account when generating our tests to make sure that we just don't get a bunch of generic refusals and we can be a little bit smarter. And then we'll hit next, and then that's it. And then we're done.